Republican senator from the greatest state in the nation, Senator Ron Johnson. Senator, good to see you.
Good to see you. You're looking great.
Thank you. I'm trying to be like you. So listen, you have probably one of the most hotly contested, one of the most watched Senate races in the country this year. As we've seen, we've had a 50-50 divide in the Senate. Kamala Harris comes in and casts a tie-breaking vote for Democrats. So your seat's important, especially for Republicans. You're running against Mandela Barnes, Lieutenant Governor. Want to ask you, because I spent my whole life in Wisconsin, so have you. Mandela Barnes supports the Green New Deal, wants to push the Green New Deal as the next senator. As you travel the state, I don't see this, but do you think Wisconsinites want to see the Green New Deal pushed as federal legislation from their senator?
I don't think so. They certainly don't want their taxes doubled. I don't think they want to line up in those long lines of vehicles waiting to plug in their electric vehicle to travel 300 miles. So no, I mean, this is not what Wisconsin is looking for at all. And I mean, Wisconsinites, very nice people, down to earth, very middle of the road, very common sense.
Yeah.
And the Democrats selected the most radical left-wing candidate they possibly could have picked. And by the way, they picked him. They cleared the field for him. Everybody else dropped out, and they allowed the most radical leftists to be their candidate.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense because you're right. I mean, Wisconsin's kind of a moderate purple state, and we don't believe in these left-wing policies. By the way, just I'm from the northern part of the state. It's rural. Not a lot of charging stations for your Tesla in northern Wisconsin. People drive trucks, right? And we travel long distances. These electric cars don't work for Wisconsin. So I don't understand that. But what's really near and dear to my heart, I was a prosecutor for 10 years. And Mandela Barnes, your opponent, has been one who supports defunding the police, letting criminals out of jail. How's that playing?
Well, he said that reducing the prison population is now sexy. And it was the goal of the Barnes-Evers administration to reduce the prison population by 50%. So it's been reduced by about 15%, and they paroled about 884 people, according to Wisconsin right now, a great piece. You'd think they'd start with nonviolent, right? No, only 11%. About 100 of those people were nonviolent. 784 were violent criminals, including 44 child rapists, 270 criminals that either committed, and they primarily committed, or attempted murder.
So hold on a second. Lieutenant Governor Barnes and his team let out almost 1,000 violent criminals out of Wisconsin prison?
About 784. Let's get to that.
So 784.
Yeah, and again, 44 child rapists and 270 people either committed or attempted murder. One guy shot his wife, beheaded her, threw her in a wood-burning stove. It's horrific. I mean,
it's horrible.
It's horrific.
And again, Wisconsin's a group of compassionate people, but also they have common sense. And if you commit crimes, they want you in jail. Here's what is challenging for me. If you look at some of the policies that have come from the left that have had the biggest impact negatively on the country, one has been defund the police. Yeah. The other has been the Green New Deal. It's attacked American energy, the independence of American energy. They push these crazy policies that don't work for our state, especially in rural parts. And the fact that now Wisconsin has a candidate who wants to do the exact same thing. They want to be on page with the squad Mandela Barnes does. Are you hearing that Mandela Barnes is getting pushed back in the state, or is he being welcomed with open arms?
Well, first of all, they didn't really have a primary, so nobody described who he really was. So it's been since August 10th where we've finally been able to pay to get the truth out. It's not a level playing field. It's not a fair fight. The Democrats have the left-wing media, and the media in Wisconsin, by and large, it shifts to the left. So it's been difficult to get that message out, but now Wisconsinites are finally beginning to understand who Mandela Barnes is, and the polls are starting to turn on him.
What I think is important, we saw in the 2020 election, Joe Biden hid in his basement, right? And that was effective, right? He didn't have to answer for his record, didn't have to talk about his policies. And it looks like in Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes is doing the exact same thing. He's not going out and doing interviews, doing town halls, taking questions from the media. He's hiding on these policies. And again, you mentioned you bring them out, but you're out there actually talking to people, doing interviews, talking about your ideas for the future of America and Wisconsin.
Yeah, I've got the job in the Senate here, which I still have to perform, but I'm doing events all over the state. I've done more than 100 interviews since he was selected as their nominee. We tried to count his, maybe 4. No, he's in hiding. He is taking that page out of Biden's playbook, hide in the basement, don't tell the truth, back away from all these radical positions trying to convince Wisconsin he's just this nice little moderate. He's not. He's a radical leftist. He'd be dangerous in the United States Senate.
I got to go in a second, but just quickly talk about the money coming into the state on both sides. Is it 50-50 even? Are you getting outspent?
They've spent tens of millions of dollars against me already, but they've got the priceless media trying to take me out as well. So it's not a fair fight. So Ron Johns from Senate.com, if you want to help me tell the truth.
Well, see, I've seen some of those ads, so I wanted to check when you came in whether you had horns on your head or not. You didn't. It's nicely combed and no horns. So Ron Johnson, great state of Wisconsin. Thanks for joining me.
Great to see you.
I appreciate it. All right.